Hello everyone, I'm Jeremy.
And I'm Beth, the one and only.
And today we're talking about a game that was released a little while ago, Final Fantasy VII Remake. The reason we're looking into this game today is because its follow-up, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, is coming in just about a month from now.
And it doesn't seem like that far to go. I mean, it's surreal that it's coming out so close, but that's what happens when you have fun. Time flies.
Yeah, it's actually kind of amazing to think that it's been almost 4 years since the first part is launched, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's hard to wait on, but you know what I'm saying? You get the ball rolling, especially with speculation and all that fan stuff, and it goes by pretty quickly.
Yeah, especially with how the first one ended. A lot of fans of the game, I should say a lot of fans of the original Final Fantasy VII, wanted a one-to-one remake. Basically, what they wanted was a version of the old game with better graphics. And if you're one of those people, I understand where you're coming from. The original game was great, and there's a lot of things that we still love about it, and it's still one of the best games in the Final Fantasy series, there's no denying that. Basically, the difference between what a lot of fans have asked for, which is a one-to-one remake, basically a version of the old game with better graphics, and what we have now are two completely different properties. You see, I seem to remember a time where, along with asking for a one-to-one remake, there was also a section of the fan base that was asking for a sequel. And the interesting thing about the trilogy that we're getting is that it's kind of both of those ideals rolled into one.
Nomura, being as stubborn as he is and rebellious, he wanted this all along, and this was just a Trojan horse for him to get his way.
So what we're going to do first to start this off is give you a simple summary of the story.
Okie dokie, let's get started. We've got a short summary, well, somewhat short summary of the story that's going to be narrated by my brother. For those of you who want a more cinematic approach, watch the trailer on YouTube.
Final Fantasy VII Remake is the first part in what will eventually be a trilogy of games serving as a remake to the original Final Fantasy VII, although I do use the term remake fairly lightly for reasons that should become obvious as you witness the game's story. Basically, Final Fantasy VII Remake is kind of more of a sequel than it is a remake. You could even say it's both. Yes, you're going to be reliving many major events from the OG FF7, however, the OG FF7 and this remake are two separate timelines. So without further delay, let's get into the game's story. In order to fuel Midgar, Shinra was draining the planet of its life force, converting it into Mako through their reactors. A group called Avalanche was attempting to thwart Shinra's efforts, and among this group was the main character, Cloud Strife, along with two other important characters in the game, Barret, who is the leader of Avalanche, and Tifa, Cloud's childhood friend. Together, Cloud, Barret, and Tifa and the other members of Avalanche embark on a mission to destroy a Mako reactor.
Alright, they set out to destroy a big reactor, okay? Considering that they live in Midgar, I don't think that cause is worth fighting for, especially if you are vaporized in a pillar of fire.
Are you gonna let me tell this story or not?
Yeah, I'm just thinking about, almost instantaneous death by being burned alive and reduced to ashes. So, just don't mind me. Okay, I have a frog in my throat.
Shortly following the successful destruction of a Mako reactor, Cloud meets a flower girl named Aerith, who later becomes a very important person in the story. It is here that he first encounters the Whispers, Guardians of Fate. The Whispers are basically the guardians of FF7's timeline. Whenever events start to stray away from the original game, Whispers appear and attempt to correct the events to stay in line with the original timeline. They don't want any deviation happening. Soon, Cloud, Barret, and Tifa set out to destroy another Mako reactor. Sadly for them and all of Midgar, this time Shinra was prepared. They countered Avalanche's move by destroying an entire district and placing the blame on anti-Shinra rebels.
To make them seem more noble in their cause, both they themselves as people and also the bull that they're doing to the planet, as any narcissist would do, in their attempts of reflecting to the public how noble they are in their cause, they blame somebody else. Somebody else is the bad guy. Typical narcissist.
Well, I think we can all agree there. Shinra are huge narcissists.
Yeah, blame somebody else.
After the attack, Shinra takes Aerith prisoner and attempts to reach the so-called Promised Land. Apparently, since Aerith is the last of the Cetra, she's the only one who can guide them there. While on a mission to rescue Aerith, Cloud and the gang are joined by a creature called Red 13. After the successful rescue of Aerith, the gang encounters a war hero who they previously thought to be deceased, a war hero named Sephiroth, who wants to claim the planet for his own.
I just want to say that Red 13's an amazing character. I mean, he's not my absolute favorite in the world, but there is something interesting about him. I hope to see more.
You do realize I'm still trying to tell a story, right?
Yeah, I know, but I just wanted to put that in there. I think if I don't ask it, somebody else will, and probably already have.
Anyway, eventually the group finds themselves at Destiny's Crossroads. There they choose to defy fate rather than remain shackled to it. After defeating the Whispers, the creatures that had been protecting the OG timeline, it is now understood that there is nothing left to protect that timeline. Anything can now happen. The defeat of the Whispers causes immediate changes in the timeline as well, such as Biggs surviving the plate collapse and Zack surviving the events of the original Crisis Core game. The game ends with Aerith appearing to be very uneasy about what will soon unfold, and then we get the big "to be continued" message before the credits roll.
Basically, with the fates gone, there's nothing protecting the previous storyline.
The events of this remake trilogy is turning into something that is more like the conclusion of Kingdom Hearts 3 and Kingdom Hearts Remind, where basically something really bad happens and now there is a chance to do it over. There is a group who wanted this remake to be a completely faithful remake to the original game, and I understand those people, and I'm sorry that this trilogy didn't turn out exactly how you wanted. However, I do think that there is a lot of value in what we got for everyone for multiple reasons. Basically, with this new trilogy, we're getting our cake and we're eating it too. We have no idea if Aerith is going to survive. We have no idea to what extent Zack has actually been brought back other than a few teasers. And we certainly have no idea what that will mean for the game's story going forward or how that will affect the overall value of it. It could be for the worse, or it could drastically improve it. But there is no denying that we have a lot more to anticipate here than we would if it was just a one-to-one remake, and we have a lot more discussion to be had. So with all this stuff taken into consideration, I think that the route that they took with the story was definitely the best route to take in this remake. From there, we can move on to the gameplay segment of the video. Since gaming has shifted away from turn-based in recent years, this version of the game has opted for a more action-based experience.
It's interesting to see that Nomura combined the old menu-style gameplay with a more action-oriented motif. It not only made the game more fun, it also made it more user-friendly.
The reason for this is because, whether we agree with it or not, when most gamers play a game, they want action. They don't want to select things from a menu. They want to hack and slash away at things. They want to feel like they're right there in the action with the main character. And don't get me wrong, I'm saying this as someone that loves both menu and action style gameplay, but there's no denying which one the more popular medium is.
Yeah, I couldn't really say it better myself. I actually think it was a good addition to Final Fantasy VII to kind of add a more Kingdom Hearts action-oriented gameplay to Final Fantasy. I think it adds to it.
Yes, it's really nice how in this game they went to a mostly action-style gameplay, but they also left some elements of menu style in as well. In battle, things are going at full-paced action, but when you press the X button, things slow down to a crawl, and you get to choose things from a menu somewhat similar to what you would have done in the original game. It's kind of like a mixture of the OG Final Fantasy and more modern iterations of the series.
Limit breaks are still present, and you have a few new ones as well.
Summons are still present as well, and they stick around with you a lot longer in the battle, although I'll admit that they're not as epic as they used to be, although I don't see how they could be in an action-based gameplay setting. Apart from that, I think everything is pretty much an improvement.
I think Nomura realized the whole problem with the overplaying of the summons. That was a problem in the PlayStation 1 games, like with Final Fantasy 8 and 9. You would see the same thing over and over again, and I think Numor realized that people would get a little burnt out on that. I certainly wouldn't, but I'm elite.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I spammed Neo Bahamut in the OG game, because there was just so many times that it was better to use Neo Bahamut than to use anything else.
And some of those sequences, you will remember them for the rest of your life. Just like I remember the Ifrit sequence from Final Fantasy X, I will never forget that as long as I live. And it also seems with the new approach that Nomura was taking in order to make the game more palatable to audiences, he wasn't only trying to please the old fans, but he was also trying to unisolate the franchise and get Square out there and get new people on board.
Like the Scorpion robot boss that appears in the OG Final Fantasy VII. In the OG game, it's just a quick little battle that's not very memorable at all, but in this game, it's a multi-part battle that is a lot more cinematic than it used to be, and it's also a lot more dramatic and action-packed than it used to be.
The Scorpion battle, that's a good point that Jeremy brought up. In the OG game, it was just sort of there, and you fought it, and you won, and fanfare, and that was it. But in this game, you actually get an introduction to this bad boss, and it makes the memorable Scorpion bot all the more memorable and all the more epic. So it's little things like that. And if that wasn't enough, not only do you have little tiny superb additions here and there, but also the story, like parts of the story, like for example when Cloud gets addressed, when he sneaks into Don Corneo's mansion, all that has been added upon, like the Honeybee Inn. There's a whole sequence on that. There's still minigames are still present, but it's still based on what you get in the OG thing, but it's added on to.
One area that I will make a little bit of a criticism on are the side quests. The side quests are a lot more limited than I feel like they could be. There's only 26 of them in the whole game, and most of them are not that complex.
It's pretty much objective. You go get it, you meet the person that gave you the quest in the first place, and you're done.
Yep, that's pretty much the meat of it. The side quests are not going to do it for most completionists. They're not that good, but they're also not that bad, I suppose. In my opinion, the better forms of side content are developing materia for Chadley or the VR training simulator.
The side quests remind me much of Final Fantasy 15. Lackluster, simple and lackluster.
In my opinion, the only true big miss about the game is the side quest, which is partly remedied by the VR training simulator that includes some really impressive secret bosses. But apart from that, yes, completionists, I can definitely see where they would complain a little bit about this. The music, however, in this game is pretty slappin'.
Especially the Oppressed, which is what it was called in OG Final Fantasy VII. It has a fresh new name and a fresh new take, and it's called Due Recompense.
Yes, that is definitely her favorite track, and there has been a lot of other tracks.
Absolutely, boss.
Heh. There has been a lot of other tracks that people have named as their favorites, such as the Slums theme or the very famously named 7 Seconds Until the End. People talk about that track all the time.
At least we not forget One Winged Angel and even the Shinra theme, Genova and all that. It's the same as you remember it, only better.
This game's music never misses. I couldn't think of one time in which the music was not absolutely top tier. Graphically, the game looks very good. However, this game does take place almost entirely within Midgar, apart from a flashback or two. What we see in part 1 certainly isn't bad. The character models look great, and pretty much everything else is as detailed as you could hope for it to be.
Anatomy, pores on the face, strands of hair, models actually looking like people. It's all present and accounted for.
This game was released towards the end of the PlayStation 4's lifespan, so by the time it rolled around, developers had mostly learned what they could get out of the system and how to use it to its full extent.
Maybe a hard pill to swallow, but the best experience as far as graphics are concerned happened towards the end of a console's life.
Yes, indeed, and part of it comes from the fact that this game is mostly linear. There are a few areas that allow for some exploration exploration, but for the most part, you're going to be on the rails on this game, which is understandable since this is the introduction to the trilogy and it follows a very tightly controlled narrative. I fully expect this to have more freedom in the parts to follow, but for now, the linearity is completely understandable. So, all in all, Final Fantasy VII Remake is a great introduction into what will eventually be the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy. It's a game that doesn't have many problems, a few, namely the side quests as I earlier mentioned, but for the most part I think that you will find this is a very finely crafted product. It has a good story, it has good scenes, it has fantastic characters, as anyone who's ever played an FF7 game will know.
I think, me personally, I think that all the inconsistencies of the OG game have been addressed. And while I love the OG game and I respect it, I have a deep love for it and respect, I can also acknowledge its insufficiencies. And I'm pleased to report that I believe this game addressed all those insufficiencies. We got a deeper look at the world of Final Fantasy VII. We got a revitalized soundtrack. We got tighter gameplay. It's like a hybrid between the menu style and Kingdom Hearts fighting. In my opinion, a match made in heaven.
Yes, I couldn't have said it better myself. This game has many triumphs, and if you haven't played it yet, now is the perfect time to, with the follow-up just around the corner.
Love it or hate it, I think there's always going to be people out there that are divided about what Nomura ultimately decided, how he decided to approach the game, and I think that's always going to be a thing. But I think if we look at this logically and we put everything on the table and really look at it and we understand it for what it is, I think that even so, despite our differences, we can find some common ground.
That's right. Just because you might have preferred that the game be a one-to-one remake of the original doesn't mean that you can't get any good out of this remake trilogy. It's like we always say, sometimes you can enjoy a product despite the fact that you may not view it as perfect. Not everything has to be perfect in order to be good.
The game we just talked about, if you buy the one coming out, you get the game we talked about for free on PlayStation Store.
Yes, that's if you buy the twin pack, which is the same price as the base game. So, why wouldn't you do the twin pack?
Get all caught up? Anyways, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and that's it. What are you waiting for?
And go pre-order the game if you haven't done it already. If you haven't already done it, I'm disappointed in you.
Yeah, I'm disappointed in you, and I'm also disappointed that you'll be missing out on this game. And also, if you have a mean comment or something, we can debate about this constructively. But if you just want to drop a mean comment on there, I'm probably not going to listen to it.
Dude, why are you still talking? I ended the video already.
I just wanted to throw that out there.
Like, comment, and subscribe.
I already said that.
Well, I'm saying it again because people actually listen when I say it.
No, is that supposed to hurt my feelings?